Hi everybody and welcome back to Greater Manchester Stories. This story is this story is a bit like a Netflix series. You won't believe this has happened. We don't have issues in this country where suddenly houses are sucked into the ground. Luckily no one dies, but people are left homeless. This is like a Netflix series. So rather than me tell you about it, let the lady tell you about it and welcome Bernie Scanlon to the show.
Hi, Nick, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to tell people what's been going on
Well, I've
and how
given
we've been treated.
Well, exactly. And I've given people a bit of a taster, and they're probably thinking, how's this being sucked into the ground? Nick's exaggerating. What exactly happened?
Well, a sinkhole appeared, um, I think it was the 20th of January 21, and it was all systems go. There was all sorts of utility firms turning up, having little chats here and little chats there. But a car was halfway down it. It took them 2 hours just to pull that out, just to make the decision to do what they were doing. And they were digging all night. Nobody got any sleep. Um, the next morning, when my son went out to work, there was a big dip in between the two houses to my right where the sinkhole was outside of. And at about quarter to 12, those two houses fell into that sinkhole. And I was in my home when that happened. So
Wow.
just before they fell, I'm listening to my mason. I didn't know what it was. I was like, "What's that?" Cracking all around. I was watching my plaster spit off, and then we heard the crash. Unfortunately, I couldn't get out the front. The utility guys are screaming at me, "Get out, get out!" Couldn't get out the front. It took me a few minutes to find my back door keys.
Mm.
Well, I didn't find them. I had to go to the front, praying that nothing fell on me to get the keys out the front door. And so I got out my back door with just my coat, my handbag, got round the front, and 2 minutes later, the front one side of the front of my house dropped. So that was the last time I was in my home. It was pulled with everything in it.
Wow. That is like a Netflix episode that of
I can't tell you honestly that the first year I was all over the place. It's a big loss.
let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions there. So so where was your house? I know where it was, but for the audience, where was your house?
Walmer Street in Abbey House in Gorton, which is Manchester.
And I know that area very well because where the children's play area is, I lived there 15 years. I lived on the other side of the play area. In Abbey A on Lee Street. So I know that area really well. And I read this, and when that happened and Manchester Evening News reported it, my first thing was, I know that street. So your house has collapsed, fell into the sinkhole.
Well, mine didn't. The two to the right did.
And was anybody in those houses at the time?
No, they'd been evacuated the night before, and I'd asked, "Is mine okay?" And a fireman came in and checked my plaster, and he said, "You're okay." But by the next morning, there was cracks in my plaster on the inside and cracks in my masonry on the outside, which I did show them and pointed it out to them, and they said, "No, wait for the safety assessors, they'll be here soon." So I was in mine, and I'd been diagnosed with PTSD because of that incident, specific to that incident.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So let's follow on the story. So your house is now gone. You've got your coat, your handbag. You stood outside. You're now. I mean, we call people homeless all the time, and they're not homeless the way we think you mean when you're homeless. But you were literally homeless. Your home is now gone.
Everything.
What happened after that?
Um, well, our councillor was on the street and left the homeowners on one side of the street and looked after the renters. And we had to go to her about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And don't forget, it was freezing. It was snowy. It was icy. Um, and they'd not. It was the neighbours brought us cups of tea out and stuff like that to keep us warm. Well, there was no interaction from the councillor at all.
Let me just jump in there again. So you said they help the renters. What do you mean by they help the renters?
Well, there were 17 properties evacuated in all. Um, Um, they basically she stood on one side of the road and helped the people who rent. Um, and us that owned our own homes were on the other side of the road. There was a clear divide. She helped everybody, made sure everybody's ferried off, and just left us to it. Um, the homeowners. We were just stood in a group on the other side of the road.
So your council sorted them accommodation out, emergency accommodation,
Yeah, they were making sure that everybody had somewhere to go and were being looked after.
apart from you and the other homeowners.
Yeah, just a group of homeowners. Yeah, yeah.
That is, that's very hard to believe.
Discrimination.
Yeah,
It's-
very, very hard to believe.
well, it was. It's like you're like, oh my god, and our MP was the same, nowhere to be seen.
Well, I can see mistakes being made on the day after. So surely the council stepped in the next day and started helping you
No,
and start. Right? Can
no.
can, can you talk about that, please?
We ended up at a Sure Start centre until about 8 o'clock the evening. My son went out and treated everybody to KFC. Nobody had eaten. All he had was his DPD uniform. He went out to work in that and he came home. That's all he had. Um, so he treated us all to food, and then he said, "Oh my God, have you seen this? Social media, Mr. Khan. Oh, everybody from the sinkhole disaster has now been accommodated," and patting himself on the back. So my son just took a photo of us sat there and said, "Well, we're still sat here. So what are you doing with us?" But it wasn't the council that turned up. Half an hour later, it was a representative from United Utilities. And he said, "Oh, we've just had a bit of backlash from social media. As a goodwill gesture, we'll put you up in a hotel for 2 weeks while we sort this out with the council," which they did. Um, so it was gone 9 o'clock that night before we got to a hotel. It was in Castlefield, at the back of Manchester there, and it was like a ghost town because it was locked down as well. So no hot food available. We had to walk. We had a Sainsbury's on the corner, a little mini one where you could get croissants. That was the only access to any hot food. We had to get on the tram and go to Piccadilly Station, just have somewhere to sit and eat a bit of hot food. It was a ghost town. And United Utilities visited the next day and said, "We're going to give each household £200 as a goodwill gesture," which we were grateful for. But
200 £200. I mean,
per household, not per person.
I mean, I don't know how much responsibility they've got, but £200 is absolutely nothing in the grand
But
scheme
when
of
you think,
things.
well, yeah, me and my son had nothing. Don't forget, we had to buy chargers for our phones because we both had different underwear. We had nothing.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah.
So that didn't go far, but you know, we were all over the place anyway. We didn't know what was happening. We were getting no information. Um, just getting these emails through from the council contact. And a couple of days later,
Here's a question for you. When did the council start helping you?
oh, helping them. No, no. When they contacted us, yeah, but helping us, no, they haven't. They haven't. I've had to fight just for the basics. We were threatened in the hotel, 15 weeks in the hotel in Denton that they took responsibility for. The first 2 weeks with United Utilities, and then we were moved to Denton a bit near a family. And every couple of weeks or so, we would say, they were like, because we wouldn't do as we were told, lots of detail there. We are ending our duty of care, and we will not. And we were like, you're talking, there's a couple of pensioners here in the 70s as well, four pensioners, two key workers, my son, post office worker, my friend's son, thinking, well, where are we going to be? My son said, "I'm going off to work," and thinking, have I got a bed to come home to? We thought we were going to have to sleep in his van one night because they were saying, "Oh, well, we're not paying for your accommodation." So I said, "Oh, well, it looks like I'll have to get a sleeping bag in the back of my son's van here, you know." And when they have rebooked us, there's times when I've been left sat in that car park with my suitcase, crying, grown woman, no dignity whatsoever, because I didn't know what was going on and neither did the staff. they were pretty distressed as well, the staff, seeing, because it wasn't just us that were treated badly. I heard quite a few stories there myself that would leave your jaw on the floor. A man in a wheelchair given accommodation with steps up to his front door and told, well, if you don't take it, ending your duty of care. What? These people have no humanity and no heart whatsoever. They've been
At the same time this was going on, every rough sleeper in Manchester city centre was put into a hotel, and every illegal immigrant who enters the country is given a four-star hotel.
Now this is the bugbear, Nick, right? And we're now nearly 3.5 years in a temporary accommodation. Now we're not really homeless, we're displaced. There's a difference because we've lost our homes to a disaster and we've lost everything. So we're displaced, not homeless, and there is different legislation, but the council will not even acknowledge that because it gave them much more responsibility to help us and to replace us, help us replace what we lost. No, no. It's literally they've gone, we're giving you nothing, you're having nothing. Now, 3.5 years later, this area that they put us in is dire. Some nice people, don't get me wrong, but the area it's probably the worst place they could have put us. Social issues wise, if you like, a lot of temporary housing, and there's like a house clearance every other week in the entry, which obviously costs the council. There's that issue as well. But I'm meeting people that are arriving in the country, being helped, being given full assistance, care, legal, social, whatever, and within 4 to 6 months, they're gone because they've been housed. So I wonder how the British people have got to understand that they are being prioritised over us. And these are people that haven't even really established a legal status yet.
Yeah, and haven't contributed a penny into the coffers of the country, and they're just economic migrants, and some of them are criminals because they actually break into the country. Now, if you'd have spoken to me at the time, I'd have said to you, right, your best bet is your councillors and your MP. Afzal Khan is your MP. They're bound to help you. They will fight on your side because that's their job. What has your local MP done for you?
Nothing. It's shameful, to be honest. I contacted him a year later when he was all over social media talking about the Afghan refugees that were arriving. No problem with that. But I had a problem with him espousing for these poor people when he'd left us to rot. So I had a comment to make and I said, what about your own evacuees, Mr. Khan, from Gorton? Your constituency, your constituents. Apparently I ambushed him on Twitter. He wasn't very happy with me. And he just said, I've checked my emails and there is none from you. And I said, well, that's the point, Mr. Khan. 17 households were evacuated from that street and there's been nothing from you. Nothing. I recently contacted him again, if he could help me with, because we're getting nowhere with the housing. It looks like, it's like they don't want to give us a settled home, which is what what we need, especially me. They just don't want to give us anything, it seems. I've been asking for the minutes of the meeting, sorry, from the beginning, where United Utilities and Manchester City Council sat down in a meeting and decided who was going to take over the care side of things, the duty of care to the victims. And I can't get them for love and money. I've even asked Andy Burnham at a meeting, maybe you can facilitate that for me. I've asked Rob McCartney, who is the assistant head of the homeless director. I had a meeting with him.
Have you put in an official request under the Freedom of Information to Manchester Council for them to send you all records that refer to you by name.
Is that called a subject access request? Yeah, I'm going to do that next. I've been very naive about all this, but it's taught me quite a few lessons.
Like, well, after this interview, I will send you the link. Saves you trying to Google. I mean, it can take you half an hour to find it. I know where the link is. I'll send you the link,
Lovely, thank you for
and
that.
then you know what you're doing from there. Because if you fill that in, they then have a legal duty to respond with, I think it's 30 days or 60 days. And better than that, if they lie, then I believe it's a criminal matter if they then lie to you on a subject information
They
request.
have. I've, on that. Oh, if they lie to you on that, yeah, yeah. So because I think they will be. I have stated. I've collared Andy Burnham a few times at Mayor's Question Time, and I have said I can prove every single thing I'm saying regarding Manchester City Council. I said, can they? No, they can't. I said, because if I said they have lied. I said, but I've told them, and it goes to court. There'll be an audio, and I can request the audio, so I can prove what I'm saying. You can't. Yeah, there's a. I think at the beginning I complained to the head of the homeless director, who's called Vivian Feeney, about her staff behaviour, and she didn't address any of my concerns, but basically said, if you don't accept this, you won't be getting any more help. I've got all the emails and everything. And from the minute she got involved, every door's been shut, no help's been given. I mean, don't forget, we lost everything. We've not had financial help from Manchester City Council. If it hadn't been for family and friends, we would have been destitute because we had nothing. And that's how cruel they are. And I've worked all my life. Both my kids work good jobs. Both my grandkids are in apprenticeships and doing well. We're productive members of society. Well, I'm not so much now. I'm ill there, but I've got all these aches and pains. But productive members. This is how they treat you. This is how they treat you. And one other thing I want to bring up as well about how they are prioritised over us. I went to the citizens' advice, and they said I wasn't able to access legal aid to take my complaints with the council forward. So it's not just the housing. It's not just even legal aid. They get handed it on a plate the minute they arrive. But I'm not allowed it. I paid into that pot myself through my taxes, but I can't access it.
Yeah, the whole system, yeah, the whole system's unfair. It's also incompetent,
Oh,
and
I'll agree to that.
yeah, yeah, it's completely incompetent. It's not just the individuals who work in the system. The system itself is incompetent. I worked for Manchester Council for 10 years. I know how it all works. It's a shambles, and it's not always the officers' fault. It's just the system that they're working in. And the reason why it's a shambles is because they always have to report to councillors and political elite, and that's why it's a shambles because the politicians the politicians aren't looking for the council to do the best work. The councils and political league are always looking at the council to do the best thing that gets them votes. That's why nothing works because we think their aim is to improve our lives. That's not their aim of the council. The aim of the council is to make councillors look good so they can get more votes. That's the aim. And it's a shambles. So before we go, how do we end this now? What's your fight now? Is there any light on the horizon, or are you stuck in this quagmire and you can see no way out?
We literally, it's like our lives are on pause, mine and my son. And my son's, he's been great. He kept me up for the first couple of years, but we're fed up here. We don't like the area. It's not where we want to be. It's not our home. We can't make it a home. We can't put pictures up or decorate. We can't, we can't have a pet. This is 3.5 years, and it's been hard. It has been hard. It's affected our whole family. The dynamics of just visiting. Where we are. It's everything's changed for us. But everybody's at where we're still stuck where we are or where we were 3.5 years ago, and everybody else moved on. You know, it's a strange feeling. It really is.
It sounds like you've just been forgotten now. The emergency's over. This happened 3.5 years ago. No one cares now, and you're just forgotten about.
I'm just an annoyance to them now. When I ring up, has anyone been down? I think they draw straws who has to speak to me. Um, because every now and again I'll think, right, I'm getting on that phone again. They're not forgetting about us, you know. And a couple of the pensioners who are in the late 70s have both been saying recently, we're not going to see the end of this. How sad is that? That they've had their lives disrupted to that point, and I just think they've no compassion, they've no humanity, and they've treated us cruelly at stages. And as I say, I can prove everything that I'm saying, everything. Um,
This is such a sad story, Bernie. It really is. I've spoken to lots of people, and their stories sound equally sad until you put it into context. And the context is your house fell into a hole and you lost everything you ever owned, apart from your handbag and your coat. And then your whole life then is just completely changed. And it's not even like you can point a finger and say, they did that to me. No, they were incompetent. That's why my house fell in. This was just a natural disaster. And it must be so difficult.
there is the one thing is we do know who is at fault. They know they're at fault. They're just like that, la 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 la. It's not us. Which is United Utilities. There'd been a massive flood on you know where Hyde Road is, don't you? And where the new bridge is. There'd been a massive flood 10 days before, and by their own spokesman's words, surface water has to go somewhere. Surface groundwater has to go somewhere. It seeps down, it carries on going, and it damages the infrastructure as it goes because people don't understand the power of water. That's their words. But they're saying, oh, it's nothing to do with us. Yes, it is. It is. You go on Google Earth, there's a direct line from the flood, from the base to our street. Doesn't it,
Wow.
you don't have to be a rocket
Yeah,
scientist.
yeah, yeah,
So it is them at fault, but it's like the post office scandal, the blood
yeah,
scandal, the corporate contempt. We're only little people to them,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we don't matter. The fact that me and my son have lost everything, our lives have changed completely. They don't care. The fact that there's two pensioners thinking, I'm going to die without any resolution to this, they're the conversations they're having. They're cruel. They're cruel. And this is something that needs tackling, Nick, the legislation towards these big companies where they can just ignore the solicitors, they can ignore the media, they can ignore us, where even when they're completely and utterly at fault.
And this is why we need better MPs, because MPs should be holding these corporates to account. MPs should be fighting on your behalf, just like the blood scandal, just like the post office scandal, just like the rape of white girls across the country. If we had better MPs, we'd get a grip of some of these things, but we don't. And we just keep voting in the same fools as MPs. Or worse still, we don't vote, and then other people pick our MPs.
Yeah, I've been talking to people about that recently and saying, please, please vote. We need to send these people a message. We cannot carry on tolerating their incompetence anymore because they're ruining this country. They are with their decisions. You know, it's not what we want, is it? And they're not listening to us. So
It isn't. Bernie, I'd say thank you for coming on the show. Unfortunately, as you said, there's no light at the end of the tunnel for you at the moment, but keep fighting.
I am ready to go to the ombudsman.
Good, good. Well, keep fighting because small people can beat Goliath. It happens every now and again, and hopefully you can be one of those people. But keep fighting. And if I'm elected MP in Oldham, I'll see what I can do for you as well, because MPs can open doors if they want to.
If they want to.
Exactly. If they want to, they can open doors. Um, Thank you for coming on the show. And I'll send you that link in a few minutes' time, so you've got that link to put a request in.
I will do. That's brilliant. I was wondering how to go about that, so you've really helped there. Thank you very
No,
much.
no problem. Best of luck, and I'll speak to you again.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Did you like that video? I think you did.
hit the bell, give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.